What's going on, Commanders family? We are back with another film session, and we wanted to come in here and talk about Clelin Ferrell. He was one of the players that was really jumping off the screen this past game, and if the Commanders is going to take that next step, they need a player like him to be able to get going. And with coaches like Dan Quinn, he loves to sign these veterans on prove-it deals because sometimes with the right scheme and the right environment, that can bring the best out of you. And one thing we do know for sure, he loves to bring his front seven in waves. So if Farrell could be able to perform like he did this past week, that'll get this entire defense in the right position where they want to be. So when you're taking a look at Clelin Ferrell, it's impressive to see what he did this past game. Scoring a 90.4 overall grade against the Eagles is amazing, especially in December when it matters most. And Farrell doesn't need to be the primary difference maker, giving teammates like Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Dorrance Armstrong. He can certainly boost his front seven, and that's exactly what he did throughout the game against the Eagles. And it is needed for that defensive end position. So on this play here, Dan Quinn loves to bring his front seven in waves to generate pressure on these quarterbacks. And Farrell executes this perfectly. And with this kind of pressure, it forces these quarterbacks to throw in a hurry. And that aggressive energy spreads throughout the defense. It was a huge boost for the defense to see Farrell applying that pressure on a quarterback in a crucial game situation. So we'll go and spin a block. So running this play here, you see the offensive line, they're shading to the right. And with that tight end, he's pulling to the left and he's trying to attack Farrell. But locking in on the body movements from Farrell, I love to see slippery defensive ends. That tight end had his hands on his back, and Farrell was able to give him a quick rip. And sometimes that's all it takes for you to be able to get your hands on these quarterbacks. He's one of those long defensive ends. So if you're within his radius, he has the ability to be able to get his hands on you. And this ended up being an incomplete pass to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown did get his hands on the ball, but it was good to see Farrell generate that pressure on his rep. And with these defenses in the league, if you can be a player that can apply pressure, sometimes it can bring the best out of these linebackers and get these other players in position to make plays on the ball. And a lot of these defensive players in Dan Quinn's defense, he loves to keep these defensive linemen fresh. Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler as well. But to see Clelin Ferrell with the ability to play on the left side or the right side and getting pressures this game was great to see by the veteran defensive end. Here's another play here where Ferrell disengages and closes in on Saquon Barkley. With a player like Saquon, who is truly explosive and has been the best offensive weapon in the entire league, gap discipline, hand usage, and overall good technique are critical when lining up against the Eagles' playmakers. Seeing Ferrell extend his arms against the blocker, shed, and disengage was impressive from the 6-year veteran. So we'll go ahead and split it. So running this play here, just watching them clash on the offensive line, I love to see these defensive ends going up against these tight ends as well as these offensive tackles. But seeing the hand usage from this player, completely bench pressing him and finding a way to be able to gain leverage. Shuffling his feet to the left, planting his foot, and extending his arms. And with a player with those Gumby long arms like his, if he can be able to do all the right things, that can get him in position to make these plays. And that's exactly what he did on this rep. But looking at everybody just pile on trying to secure that tackle, you can see Farrell, he's driving those legs. That's what you want to see when it comes down to the trenches, Commanders family. Because with these explosive offenses that this defense is going to be seeing in the playoffs, it is imperative to be able to stop the run. Because if you can't do that, it can keep the opposing team's playbook wide open. But seeing him being physical with this tight end and finding a way to completely bench press this player to get to Saquon Barkley, this ended up being another dominating rep by Clelin Ferrell. If you want to see some of the best Washington Commanders helmets and upgrade your man cave or your room this holiday season, check out Green Gridiron's page in the description. These helmets are torch, available in mini or regular size with the visors, and they are built to last a lifetime. Click the link and use promo code JC Network for a discount on these amazing helmets. Now let's get back to the film session. This rep here was one of the explosive plays throughout the game by Clelin Ferrell. He forced a sack fumble, showcasing his club move to evade the tight end, his ability to bend the edge, and his long arms to reach the football. And these type of plays absolutely change the momentum in games. And Ferrell's energy showed that he had one goal in mind, lay a body on the quarterback and wreck this play. So we'll go ahead and run it. So running this play here, just watch him get off the ball and use a quick club move. And it's so good to be able to see this from this player because you can use those long arms as your advantage. But seeing this player bend the edge, stretch those long arms, and find a way to be able to get his hands on the ball. And the better defensive ends, not only are you powerful, but you have to be able to move well. You got to have that knack for being slippery and just be a snappy defensive end to do things to force these tight ends as well as these tackles to overthink. And the Eagles ended up recovering the football on this play, but it seemed like once this play happened, it changed the whole energy throughout this game. And I'm not saying that he's one of the players that can do this down in and down out, but you will get these splash plays from this player. And it's only going to bring the best out of everybody on the defense. And these plays do tend to happen when you're lining up against an inexperienced quarterback. Not saying that Kenny Pickett had the worst game, but the Commanders were finding ways to keep him uncomfortable all throughout this game. And to be a defense that's going to make some noise in the playoffs, you got to have dogs on every level of this defense. And they do have that, especially having Marshawn Lattimore there. Lattimore didn't have the best game. That was game one. He is coming off an injury, so you have to give that time. But seeing Clelin Ferrell and that defensive line going out there and making a big time impact, this is how you can be able to take that next step when it matters most. So on this final play here, we see Ferrell's patience as he watches Barkley, locks in on him, and waits to make the tackle. While he's not the type of player who consistently racks up multiple sacks, his ability to generate occasional sacks, create pressure, and maintain strong run defense makes him valuable in the rotation with the other defensive players. So let's run it. So locked in on this play here. It was another one of those rests where they just let him free. But the good thing is he remained patient. You don't want to be overly aggressive when it comes down to Saquon Barkley. Saquon tries to slice right in between those guys, and they quickly closed them in. And I've always said when you're playing that defensive end position, you don't want to go out there playing that hero ball. You have to play with gap integrity, setting the edge, being patient, and doing your job. And he did this all throughout this game, being a player that scored a 90 overall grade. That says a lot when it comes down to a divisional game when you're playing in December. And the beauty about the NFL, when you do have these type of performances, it can give confidence to these players, but it's up to them to be able to lock in, focus, and believe in themselves. But if he does have this type of play for this final stretch, the sky is the limit of what Dan Quinn can be able to do with this defense. So it was good to see this from Clelin Ferrell going out there and putting up a solid game against the Eagles this past Sunday. So it's going to be good to see how it all plays out with Ferrell. You have all of your family in the DMV. Sometimes that can spark a fire to get going. And this is the perfect time because once you get to the playoffs, it's win or go home. But I think with these explosive players on defense as well as the offense, if they can get that chemistry right, they can be able to make some noise. But it's not just about the athletes on the field. These coaches are going to have to do their job and get these players in position. So comment below and let me know what you think about Clelin Ferrell's performance. And do y'all think that he has what it takes to build off this past game? So make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe and hit that notification bell because the way the YouTube algorithm works, if you don't hit it, you'll miss out on fire updates and the best football film sessions on YouTube. All right, Commanders family. Talk to y'all soon. Gone.